Why so worry, baby?
So, anyways, fine line between like that perversion
versus a gradient, versus a ill-defined gradient.
Yeah, because it all depends on your experience and how you experience your first time.
And I think that even in a monogamous relationship, say you're both virgins, you get married very young, and you start having sex, like you're going to eventually start exploring new things together.
Maybe.
You know.
Depends on your faith. It depends on your belief.
Yeah, I think you're talking about like a really narrow definition, like a really narrow scope of people who are going to be like, oh no. If we veer off from missionary, we're sinning because we're enjoying sex, and we shouldn't enjoy sex.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, but that's also a very narrow scope. There's not a lot of people who are like that. There's not a lot of
not now.
communities that are like that. No, not now.
Because now, I mean, dude, you like...
But as long as I've been alive.
You can, dude, I guarantee you could fucking throw a rock and hit a swinger in this town. Just
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, that's not hard.
No, not at all. There's like people doing that shit. That's becoming more and more the norm. And which is messed up because honestly, that's been the culture in America for a long time.
Yeah.
People even people always cite like the 60s, you know, the hippies as being like the sexual revolution here.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was going on before that because you had all those parents of those the hippies were all into swinger. They were like this whole swinger movement, key parties, and they were all way into that. Their cocktails and their pills. And
you're talking about like 50s?
50, yeah, 50s, absolutely. Early 60s, way before the hippies were doing their shit. That shit was going on. And you wonder why the kids of the 60s turned out the way that they did because they saw their parents doing this, but also going to church on Sundays and like all this other, you know, like keeping this other lie, leave it to Beaver life up.
Sure.
And it messed them up. It messed them up.
Which is probably a lot of the same thing with the next generation of drug use and same thing, but not just the fact that it was that, but then the fact that they were like heavily chastised for being even around it or being around people who were doing it, and then the hypocrisy, really, right? Yeah. That's what really drives people to move.
Well, because they didn't talk about it back then, so a lot of shit happened. Shit would happen, and you didn't talk about it.
So what's the moral here? The moral of the story is tell your kids about all the depraved shit you do.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Let them know. I mean, not like, don't brag about it or anything, but, you know, hey, I did this too when I was, but, you know, maybe I hear the lessons that I learned from it, you know, that kind of thing. Be honest with your kids. Be honest with your kids, I think, is really the story.
Yeah,
right?
dude,
really
I know people that, like, just totally disavow who they were when they were young, like, and to their kids, and then their kids turn out to be just exactly like them, and they're like, I don't understand it, I have no idea why my kid is this way, you know, like, and you're like, well, you know, I remember when you were...
Yeah, so remember when I was talking about parents and Dungeons and Dragons and like all that stuff? Okay, so I was talking about that, and my dad tuned in, he watched the videos, and he was like, bullshit. I was like, what do you mean bullshit? And he was like, bullshit, you know that I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. And I was like, I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about my mom. I wasn't talking about you. And he was like, well, you know, maybe you should point it out. My dad was really honest with us all the time. Yeah, and I think his first comment was like, bullshit, your mom, before you were born, has done more drugs than you've done in your entire life. And I was like, I believe that.
Yeah, that's like weird shit too, dude. Like as far as weird sex shit. So I was in wrestling when I was younger, right?
Okay.
So there was two kids, then their dad was the wrestling coach, and both of the brothers were twins, and they were both gay. How was that weird? It was a little weird. Twin boys that are gay?
I don't think that has anything to do with wrestling, though.
I don't know, dude. It was.
I don't
when
think
you wrestled with them, I stopped. I kind of stopped wrestling.
I don't think it has anything to do with wrestling. My coach. My wrestling coach, both of his sons were wrestling at the same time, and both of them are very straight with, you know, a wife and kids.
I was more making a point of the twins thing, like.
So you think twins?
Yeah, they were twins. So they're gay twins.
It's a twin thing, huh?
Well, no, that for them, like, how weird is that? It's like both brothers.
Well, I mean,
are
a lot of
gay.
people are
They
gonna
spent a lot
argue-
of time in the womb. How were they in the womb?
A lot of people are going to argue that it's a genetic thing. Like your sexual orientation
Oh,
is
that's
determined
bullshit.
genetically.
That's fucking bullshit.
Well, why?
Why?
You just gave anecdotal evidence supporting it.
Why do I think that is bullshit? Okay, I'm going to tell you why I think it's bullshit by telling you why I don't think it's bullshit. That's in some part of it.
Fair enough.
So we all know when in nature that animals will, if there's overpopulation within a certain, group of the animals, they will turn to homosexuality to reduce their numbers. And that's common in a lot of different species. You even have in some varieties of frogs, if there is
enough chemicals
population of, like, I don't know what it is. I don't remember which, is it male or females, that they will they will change. They're just will change. They will change sexes. Just like their bodies just know, they'll change their whole shit, their whole sex, to accommodate the needs of the larger community. So I do understand that as we are at a time in the world where we're getting a little too big for our britches, I think, as far as people are concerned. We are, fucking shit up with the environment, and we're not being too good. And so biologically, I could see how, that would come in. But there's that word biological again. We also do have a biological imperative, which I said is to, procreate. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that stuff that goes, so when you're getting into like other forms of like sexuality where you're not procreating, you have to wonder, why are you doing that? Is love the same? Does love feel the same way if you're not procreating for, biological purposes?
That's a good question.
Is there a chemical that's involved with that, like a sensation, because it's
tricking your body into thinking that hole's gonna make a baby?
Yeah, exactly. And or you're getting out of the. So the reason why I say that is because you're getting out of the realm of, okay, I'm doing this to have a family and blah blah blah, but now you're just like kind of gratifying your own sexual, and I think deviance kind of creeps up in that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So. All right, two things that you touched on. One was like the overpopulation, and then turning the homosexuality to bring down the population. That's the way that you said it is more of a conscious versus what is the actual like environmental trigger to make that happen. That's one thing, and then the other one.
True. And what are those? But like explore that. What are those?
I think we do know that. I just don't know that answer off the top of my head on why that does happen. And I don't think it's necessarily a overpopulation issue. I think it's a ratio between the sexes issue. When there's not enough to compete with, then that starts to happen, right? And so it equalizes, and it's only a ratio thing. It's not really a population density kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then what was the other one? The other one was whether or not there's a different chemical involved or a different feeling of love involved when it comes to procreation versus just gratification. And then again, that also comes down to an intelligent, conscious decision versus drive and just innate base instinct, right? And I think when it comes to base instinct, there's a disconnect of the gratification versus the reproduction. And it's just your body innately and instinctively thinks that inserting into another of your species and ejaculating is going to reproduce. It doesn't matter what hole you put it in, right? It's just an instinct. This is the feeling and the thing that I need to do. And so it's not really, I don't think there's really a difference in that way.
I don't know. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
We want to know.
I also think there's new triggers. I think there's new things that are catalysts that are driving this, because we're facing population collapse, right? Where people are just not having the same number of kids per relationship now on average, and eventually that's going to end up where we got way more people in hospice and geriatric care. that then we can really take care of.
And it's even it's going to get worse because you
It is.
have all the new trend now
What are the
is
triggers?
to be homosexual. So all these kids that are going to grow up, they're not going to be reproducing either. So I could see where we are at
Adding
that.
to
We
it.
could.
But
We could definitely be in a position to have that type of collapse,
But
at
even
least
if you-
in Western culture.
But even if you narrow it down to just the heterosexual couples, if you just narrow it down to the heterosexual families, still the average number of children in those families is way, way low.
Oh, sure.
And so you can't really blame it on the spread of homosexuality, although that is a huge factor, when there's a smaller percentage of heterosexual families.
I don't think I was blaming anything on that factor. I'm just
You're
I'm saying
telling
that
it is a factor, right?
are the factors that are present now.
Blame is a bad word. We
Yeah,
don't- we
like
don't use it.
those are all factors or things that we're dealing with right now. So all the stuff that
I agree.
we're talking about is
I agree.
is up for huge debate because
And then devil's advocate, right? There's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, well, the gay couples are the ones who are adopting all these kids that would have been thrown away and blah, blah,
all
blah.
right, well, something I thought of, I always kind of got a little biblical tinge here. So back with the Sodom and Gomorrah days, when people were, turning to a lot of these
good
things.
old Sodom and Gomorrah days.
Yeah, like the good old Sodom and Gomorrah days. Well, days when you could stick stuff up your butt, no one gave a shit. You could have sex with animals
Just out in the middle of the street all day.
all day long
You're
with
not,
a sheep.
You didn't have to care who was watching.
Nope, you didn't. You
You
didn't
just
have to give a
live.
shit.
You just live.
You just live for the moment.
Just be yourself.
But, were we at a point at that time period also where there was similar things going on? Where it was necessary for our culture to evolve that way. Like the Romans. Could you imagine if homosexuality wasn't a thing in the Roman cultures?
Hold on, but where were you going with the Sodom and Gomorrah thing?
Well, I'm just saying that like nowadays, like how I was saying, are there elements?
We're returning to that.
Are there elements at play now that were at play back then that caused, were like whether it was social or economic or whatever, like however these, were we in a similar situation, whatever that catalyst is that causes that to happen all of a sudden, like within human beings. And I was going to say, and then I was adding it to it by saying, can you imagine like what the Romans would have been like if they had just been a purely heterosexual culture? Because raping and pillaging, that probably would have gone on forever.
I think honestly,
But they had a large portion of their people were not reproducing.
So based on the things that you're bringing up, right, the larger issues that you're bringing up, there's probably plenty of studies that I just don't know about on this, but it sounds like it's just a trend that proportionally grows with the wealth, economic success, right? The amount of luxury in a culture.
This is true. That is
right?
a big factor. It is a big
does
factor.
seem like that would correspond.
Too much time on my hands. Too
I'm
much
gonna
time
fuck
on my
everything.
hands. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. You got that war that's like idle hands with the devil's playground.
Yeah.
Because you got you don't have, and it's even the same with musically. Something I've noticed, cultures that have a tendency to be poorer, their music is way more lively and upbeat, and cultures that are affluent and have a lot, their popular music is kind of dark and
that goes
foreboding
back
a little
to
bit.
something. I don't remember if I talked about this on the channel, but that goes back to something else that is I think we did actually, is that people are going to seek out struggle of some kind. Right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have struggle in your life, where are you going to explore that feeling? Music.
Books,
you know what I mean? Art.
books, art, music.
Entertainment. Right? That's where you're going to explore it.
I actually, a really good book, it's called Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah by this guy named Richard Bach. And he proposed that the things that we indulge in are the things that we feel we're missing in our life. So if you read fantasy novels, you're hungry for some type of fantasy in your life. If you indulge in horror movies, there's a darkness inside of you that you want satiated. You're missing, you're harboring, like a darkness inside you.
I wonder,
romance novels.
That would actually be a good question, a good subject to talk to Nico about.
I know.
That would be a really good thing because I mean that was the catalyst for all of his stuff, right? Was the dark and the gothic.
Yeah, but didn't he also say, I don't know, I have to go back on this, but didn't he also say is he met a girl?
Yeah.
He met a girl who was into the bloodletting and
stuff.
but she kind of opened the door for him into that a little bit. It seemed like he was saying
he
that.
wouldn't have been drawn to it in the first place.
Yeah.
If there wasn't that hole in his life that he was trying to fill, right? Like that draw to what's not there, which is the macabre, right? And the violent.
Yeah. Which
It'd
also
be interesting to talk about that. Maybe when we get him at Disney. Yeah.
Like there was this lady in my town, or not my town, but the town over, they called her the Snake Lady. And the Snake Lady.
Remember the Snake Lady?
I told you
we
about the Snake Lady.
remember the Snake Lady.
Did we talk about it here?
I think so. But I mean, say it again.
But she took many a man's young virginity, and I was like, but that's your first sexual experience, you know what I mean? How do you take that with you?
Really
you know what I mean?
Okay, so describe the Snake Lady though. Describe the Snake Lady, because like I could see how a Snake Lady would be pretty hot. You know what I mean? Like,
she wore all black. She was big and fat. She wore fishnet stockings where flesh was just oozing out of the fishnets. And she sold weed, and her house smelled like horrible. She had all these snake cages and like reptiles and all this shit. Yeah. It was disgusting.
Have you ever been around reptile
But you'd go over to her house and you'd be like chilling and like getting weed and you know, it was kind of like awkward.
Was she like offering discounts if she was like?
No, but it would just like if you hung. It was basically if you. I don't really understand how it worked. I never myself entertained the Snake Lady, or had her entertain me. But I was present for other young men's experiences.
So like around, like actually like a same room stuff?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, like I said, dude, those early experiences, I was terrified. Of have sex when I was a kid. I was terrified, literally terrified.
Was she like? I don't know. What was her culture?
Dude, backwoods, freaking biker lady, fucking back then. Dude, it's not like it is now when you like.
I don't know. I was picturing.
Come on, dude. To get a little bag of weed, you would go to some pretty shady places, dude. Like some seriously shady.
What year was this?
The 80s. I mean, like. Early 80s. Okay. You'd be like down this dirt road in the middle of nowhere, this dark house, you know, like 5 fucking ravenous dogs on chains this thick in the freaking yard barking when you get there. Fucking dudes show up at the door with a fucking shotgun, or there was one by the door. It was such, and you're going to these places at 12, 13 years old trying to score some weed from these fucking people, you know what I mean? And you're like, dude.
At 12, 13-year-olds, you probably didn't get a lot of shotguns pulled on you, though.
Oh, no?
At that age?
You think?
Really?
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah?
Are you some kind of fed?
A 13-year-old fed?
When you're a paranoid fucking motherfucker.
Okay, fair enough. They're on more things.
Dude, but back then, you get busted with an ounce of weed, you're going to fucking jail.
Yeah, so they're
throwing the key away.
It's Schedule 1, right?
Yeah.
So the jump to cracker is not really that big of a jump.
No, and
it's
you might as well
penalty.
You might as well be a fed if you're a 12-year-old kid coming to some strange, creepy dude's house looking for weed.
I wouldn't feel that it would be common enough.
Ah, dude, and
there's one kid who finds out this is the place to go, and he's gonna spread it to all this other kids.
Oh no, you were like that, but that was like so again, this just shows you the limits that were there, because now this lady, she didn't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. Like she's like opening her door to 12, 13-year-old kids, having sex with them.
So she's
a middle-aged woman, for crying out loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but here's
selling fucking weed.
Solid argument for legalizing these things. It's a solid argument for legalizing these things. But they're gonna do it anyway. But to keep youth out of these dangerous situations, right? To legalize these substances
Sure.
would be beneficial. Like you would not be putting them in harm's way.
I don't know. Even going into bars at that age, 12, 13 years old, you go like
Why do you go? What? What do you? What?
Any bar that would let a 13-year-old kid come in there and drink, you could imagine is like a really good place, dude.
I know. What? When did I start drinking? I want to say like 13. It was 13. I remember my first drink. It was a big gulp of pop-off plastic-handled vodka.
Ugh.
It was an entire big gulp because we had no idea like how much to pour, and I like my limbs didn't work.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I'm not gonna tell the rest of that story. Maybe another time. That was.
But those experiences.
Weird night. It was a weird night. It was a weird night, man.
They form us. You
They
know,
do,
like,
yeah.
And even your experiences, like every relationship, every time you've had sex with somebody, you take that with you into the next relationship or whatever that you're in. Everything about it. Whether it was a one-night stand or it was whether it's a communicable disease or whether it's the trauma of the fucking relationship, whatever it is.
Unless you get it cured.
You're bringing it with you. You're still, but even still, you're bringing it with you.
The experience of it.
Yeah, the experience of it. And everybody does that. Everything, we are is like, it's formed. Like, dude, I fucking, oh my God, I don't even know. I want to protect some of the people, like some of the stories. Just telling a story, even though you don't name the names.
Fake names.
It's just because they know.
It's okay if they know. It's okay if they know.
Yeah, but it's just
my boy. I've told some stories about him, and he's okay with it. I know he's okay with it. I could name him right now, and he would be okay with it. He's named himself in the comments. If you're paying attention to the comments, you'll know who I'm talking about. But yeah, like.
Well, now you're directing people to know exactly who you're
take a look
about.
at it. Take a look at it. Figure it out. Little detective work. It'll be fun. And then just give him shit about it. He doesn't care. He doesn't fucking care.
I just remember I was terrified to have sex back then. Terrified, dude. And literally, I had sex at 16, and then I got a girl pregnant at 17. It was that quick, dude. That quick. What can I say?
How'd that work out?
I love my son. I do. I love all my children. I love my son. I love my grandson. But I'm sure but that's the way nature is, though.
No, you did your
we
job.
fuck our shit up.
You did your job.
We fuck our
human
kids
being.
up. Yeah, we fuck our kids up.
As a member of this species.
We fuck our kids up, no matter we want to or not.
Well, the fucking the kids up part isn't our job, but it happens. We all fuck them up in our own special ways,
It is true.
I think the goal is to be original and fuck them up in new ways, Like,
I mean,
don't do it the same way that you got.
Well, I know what
up,
I will say this though, and that's a good point, because fuck your kids up, because if you're not fucking them up, somebody else is, and that's the fucking truth. If you're not the one that's having input in their lives and investing in their lives,
I see where you're
somebody
going.
else is gonna fucking do that, and it's better to fuck your kids up your way. What Neil Young said.
So
This has always stuck with me. He said, my home may be broken, but it's the only home I've ever known. And that's fucking truth gold right there. Like,
So the optimistic way to put that is to be a strong influence in your children's lives.
Yeah.
Be a strong influence in your children's lives. That's what's important. That's the takeaway here.
Sure.
Because I know that what you said can get misconstrued really quickly.
And if you have any bizarre masturbation stories,
hey, let us know about those too. It'll be fun. It's a fun discussion.
It goes back and forth,
we swing.
We
left,
border,
right,
it's like,
they're all over the place.
But it's like, it's funny to me, like even nowadays when I look back and I think about some of the experiences I had, different scenarios and shit that I've been in, and I'd be like, and I'm looking at my own kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't, like they're telling me shit that they've done. And I was like, oh yeah, what I did was way worse than that. And I'm like giving them shit for the shit. I'm like, oh my God, I am so thankful they didn't fucking do that shit.
Yeah.
I'm like it's like, if I tell them shit, they're like, what the?
Yeah. Like growing up, I was this weird combination of just like easy to raise and difficult to raise. I had this very strong questioning of authority, resistance to authority kind of thing going on.
So you were easily difficult to raise?
But I was intelligent. So like when I would be asked about it, I would explain my point of view and they'd be like, all right. Like I get it. What you said makes sense. But you can't argue with them. You know, you can't argue with them. Like, why the fuck not? If they're saying something that's absolutely retarded, like, why can't I check them on that? Like, why can't I make them make what they're saying make sense?
What, your parents you're talking about?
Oh, I did it to my parents too, and they hated that. But like, I did it to teachers. I did it to everyone.
Well, I will have to honestly say that there is I can, in my own experiences with youth and people that are younger, sometimes
Which you've got a new perspective
they
on that too,
really just need to shut the fuck up. And you really, like, all the
why?
hoopla and all that shit is sometimes you just need to sit down, shut the fuck up, and listen. And I will say that.
Sure, but that's
but I didn't do that.
That's
I'm not saying I did it.
That's
you know
unrealistic.
what I mean? Like,
that's unrealistic. It's never gonna happen.
but I do understand though now is that caused me, because I didn't do that.
Yeah.
It caused me a lot of problems,
Exactly.
dude. Like a lot of problems.
Here's my thought and approach to that is that you let them talk. You let them talk and you let them explain their point of view. And then you don't combat it.
Nope.
I
don't agree.
You just walk them through it.
Nope.
You walk them through
First
it
and foremost, they shut the fuck up and they listen. And then after they've shut the fuck,
these are different generations.
and after they shut the fuck up and listen,
I'm gonna fuck them up a different way.
then if there is room for that, depending on the degree of whatever it is,
Yeah.
that you can come back later and ask questions and talk about. But in the moment,
No, sure.
in the moment, just shut up. Just, you really don't. Kids, like, when they get to a certain
What do you
age,
mean by in the moment?
in the moment where say like if a discussion's heated, sometimes it's better to just shut the fuck
Absolutely.
up, walk off,
Both people shut
come
the fuck
back,
up, though.
and
Not
but
just
even if
them.
like, so if your parents coming to you and they're saying, hey, bump, this, and you're a kid that's like, you gotta tell no, what you need to do is first shut the fuck up, show that that there's compliance there and that you've understood and you've heard. And then at a time, not then, that if you have any more questions or you feel like it's appropriate to say something else, then you can come and talk in a humble manner. Because there's nothing I have learned being that way that has ever stuck with me.
Okay, I agree, and I think that I would just add a little thing to it, where it's like, where I think what would be really beneficial in that situation, because it's really hard especially when things get heated and everything, to establish some kind of a code word that means, hey, now is not the time. We will talk about it, kind of thing.
God, that's always your fucking generation. No, just shut the fuck up.
Sure.
It's literally no code word. You don't need no cushion or participation trophy. You just shut up and be like.
Okay, so I don't mean like a code word, but like a very regular failure. It's like, hey,
if I'm looking at you,
if
I'm looking at you going, now's the time that you should be listening, and you're going blah 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 blah. That's the code word, dude. That's the fuck. I gave it to you. I said,
sure.
I said, stop.
This is my point, though, man. This is 100% my point. Is that when you say something like, this is the time that you should be listening, just sounds like I am telling you what to do.
Sure.
And that's the time where it's like, fuck you, don't tell me what to do, fuck you.
No.
And like, no, you know
I
100%
understand, I do.
that is antagonizing. You know that.
There's, I'm not,
you know
honestly,
that. You
when I'm
know
saying
that.
it like this, I'm not saying
But
that
you
that's
know
the
that.
way you're going to be in the situation, because you shouldn't be that way.
The nice thing about a code word is that they have to think about it for a second. You snap them out of it, and then they have, what the fuck is that? Oh, I know what that means. You know what I mean? And they know, and they have the trust, because you've already established that trust that, okay, we will talk about this later, but now is not the fucking time to do it.
Me. I don't know. That's safe word shit.
You're fucking training a human. You're training an adult. Like, sometimes they need the fucking training wheels. Like, you're trying to put them on the same level as you. Somebody who's already learned these lessons. You're trying to put them on that same level.
I know. I do understand what you're saying.
But there is a time when they need those training wheels. Whether it's 5 years old or 12 years old, and that depends on the person and their development.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
So don't say participation fucking trophy.
No, let me ask you a question.
We're talking about development in little steps along the way to get them to the point where they are trained.
Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they want to part. I understand all that.
Don't call me a fucking participation pussy ass trophy kind of person. Don't fucking put that on me, because that's not who I am. But I do understand that there are stages of development.
Sure. Wow, I didn't realize I was talking directly to you about the participation trophy.
I mean, as an adult, you know, that's how it works.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt that feeling.
Why? I don't believe in them. That's this thing.
Oh. Oh, it's so nice that you participated, honey.
I will.
Oh.
I will reward effort. I will reward
those are the same
drive.
Oh.
I will reward effort.
Sure.
I will reward drive. But if you put in effort and you've put in drive, and I've already appropriately rewarded that, then when it comes to the competition and you've lost, then you don't need that trophy. You don't need that You don't need that. You know what I mean? Because I've already done my job.
And it's so funny.
Up to it.
It's so funny that this whole core of this conversation started with masturbation, because now we've gone from...
Did it?
Yeah. We've gone to masturbation to asserting boundaries. And it's exactly what it is. It's asserting boundaries. Parents have to assert a boundary with their children. Yeah. We should assert boundaries in our own lives, as far as some of the stuff. Oh my God, dude, sometimes the shit that comes out of my mouth when I should have had boundaries, especially if I'm like a little, fucked up. Like,
you mean like when we're recording these?
Oh, yeah. But sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I said that shit. I don't even fucking think that way.
Oh, for sure. But we all, that's...
I don't even believe that. I don't even believe that shit.
No.
But you'll say it and like...
That's you doing your devil's advocate shit.
Oh, yeah.
Live. Live.
For sure. It's the truth.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you have to kind of be that way. Though.
You do.
You have to be devil's advocate. Isn't that like part of the art of the war? The art of war is understanding your opponent. You know what I mean? That's one of the big things. Don't underestimate your opponent.
Yeah. I remember, I've read The Art of War, and I remember you have to take like the east side of the hill or something. I don't remember, something stupid like that.
But you know what I'm talking about.
But I remember that.
But I think that's one of the precepts is that you don't don't ever underestimate your opponent.
Yeah. And you make them travel to you for the fight.
True. And honor them.
Absolutely. We should all, one, if you've never wronged me, I love you. Like, I love you as a person. But if you have, I'm still going to try to understand you, right? And try to make you not an enemy. But if you are, I'll crush you. And then I'll honor the experience and your drive and your dedication and, all that. I will. But also, you'll. I've definitely had that humility for opponents, but I just didn't come out on top, Yeah.
But seriously, we'd want to still think not just for ourselves. We're not trying to think for you. We're not trying to tell you what to believe. We're not trying to tell you how to believe it. And honestly, there's so much shit that we could talk about. Like, it's endless, the amount of crap that we could fucking go on and on about. Really, we're not trying to edify anybody with these conversations, I don't think, right? There's no edification going on here.
No.
We're not trying to inform anybody, really, of anything. We are just being honest with ourselves and considering.
Yeah.
Consideration.
Yep.
For all these things.
I think that's the point. That's the point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because things like that, like Robert E. Lee was on the wrong side of history.
Yeah,
right? And
for sure.
And it's very easy to vilify everything about the Confederacy. But, let's look back on all of history, not just the Confederacy, but like all of history, and really like try to look at things with a lens of clarity that most of these things, most of these conflicts, there are good people on both sides that are just caught up in
For
fighting
sure.
for the wrong side. It's happening right now in Ukraine. It's happening, like all over the place. There are good people on both sides that are fighting for the wrong
Damn it.
reasons.
It's right, because there's people masturbating on both sides.
For the wrong
reasons. It's
Yeah.
true. They're like literally tossing one off.
Yeah.
Why do you think we have 2 socks? It's for you and a buddy. And if we all thought that way more, we probably would be doing better off. First, I was afraid. I was
round in the
petrified.
Pizza oven. And then? What were you thinking about at the time?
How much I wanted you by my side. I had all my love to give and all my life to give.
But we survived the pizza oven.
No, not I.
You didn't? He didn't make it. You're talking to the ghost of Matt.
I walked through that door.
Matthew, sorry.
It's all right.